Okay, so welcome to the presentation about the social engagement framework we call vTeam. So a little bit of quick history about vTeam. It started something like about 4 years ago, and vTeam was a product that was originally designed to manage my son's under-9 soccer team. So basically, I couldn't get the parents or the players to the right ground, the right place, so I needed to do something to help them out. So I sat down with a white piece of paper some 4.5 years ago, and we're just saying before, we have now 65,000 people in the system with about 80 clients and 4,500 teams in the solution. So what I'm going to do is just run with about 6 slides, and I'm just going to run through this product and just talk about it so you get an overall understanding of where we're coming from, and then we'll just jump in live to have a look at the Academy of Sports, the other one, and we'll just sort of feel our way around the situation. So in essence, vTeam is a tool for all sorts of businesses. We've got Teacher Connect, Drama Connect, the SportsLocker, as I said, about 80 different clients. So it's not just about sport, it's also about business. As you know, within vTeam it has a number of tools that help you, or you may not know, but it has a number of tools to help you manage a team. And we'll talk about those a bit later. And one of the products that we've created from this framework is a product called the SportsLocker, which is a product that you guys have, and it's been skinned up to make it look like yours, but it's exactly the same as 9 other academies, except yours looks like yours and theirs looks like theirs. But once you log in, it's really basically the same application. Now, one of the interesting things is where we're going with SportsLocker, and one of those is that we're now asking different questions of our athletes. We're asking questions like, how much time is spent at training, and how much time is spent online with kids, on their phones, on their computers, on YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever it is. And as far as I can do my research, and I work out that it's around about 58% of a week the kids are online. Now they might be online while they're having dinner, or while they're doing something else. My son's online while he's asleep, because he goes to sleep while the video's still playing. So 58% is a long time. Physically, they're at training about 7% of the time. If you have 3 sessions of training a week, and then you have a game on the weekend, you're looking at about 7% of their weekly time, they're actually face-to-face with their coach. And then the other 35%, I don't know, sleeping, eat my son eating. So they're the questions that we're now asking. Yeah? So in essence, we need to stop interrupting what our athletes are interested in, and we need to be what they're interested in. So that means we've got to stop saying to put down your phone, put down your stuff, come outside, and we'll do some face-to-face stuff, because they're already doing enough face-to-face. You can't do any more than 3 nights a week and a game on the weekend. In Australia, that's unless you go to a full-time academy school, well, that's the maximum you can do. So the interesting part is when I went to the US and I went through all the coaching systems, mainly the college NFL, college basketball systems, they're all using online tools to manage their athletes. And so one guy, I talked to Bill Curry, Georgia State, and he said that there's basically every coach in his sector, sport, within his group, were actually using online tools to manage their athletes. In Australia, no way. The only online tools we use to manage our athletes is email and SMS. I talk to them. Other than coming to the ground. So we need to coach the coaches. We need to change that. Over time, we need to pass on the knowledge that the older generation coaches have, move in and help the new generation coaches move in so that they can understand this environment. So we need the coach, we need the team, we need the athlete. So when I was talking to Will, the trick is to find a private place where your team or athlete can communicate online. So, of course, this is when I was building the system. Yeah, it was a key, private, online. So, in the development of young athletes in the world today, there's a first choice and a second choice. There's a third, fourth, fifth, the list goes right the way down. Don't worry about listing it all out. The first choice is that you can't have a better training session than a face-to-face, on the grass, on the court, whatever. There's no dispute. That's the best thing you can have. One-on-one or one with your team, the coaching. The second choice is the conversation around video. So worldwide they've recognised that if you can't get with your team face-to-face, the next best option is a conversation around video. And all of the professional teams that we know, the soccer, the NRL, all those teams have what they call a video session. But they are professional teams that don't have to go to work, that go to training every day. So of course, 2 days from a game, they'll have a video session. We in the academy, it's very hard for us we can't do that. So we need to hold those video sessions online. And if we're not, then we're missing out on the next choice of coaching. So wet weather, cancellation of a training session straight away needs to be switched into an online learning session. Yeah? So that means the distance within our system is not an issue. So you've got athletes that are all over the Hunter, right up into the valley, all around the place. And it's much easier to run a video session while they're sitting in their bedroom or lounge room in their house, and all the team members are in their houses, than it is to actually get them together. It's actually easier to do it online than what it is to get together. Remember, the first choice, second choice, it's not as valuable, but it is actually better to do that. So the tyranny of distance is not an issue with the system. So when we look at the Hunter Academy, we look at the current teams that was on the system. I mean, part of the whole process now is that we're going to resurrect the actual SportsLocker. We're going to bring it up to date, and we're going to get it on your website, and we're going to get all the athletes engaged and get them on the system. Because that obviously is the very next thing that we need to do. So we had the SportsLocker for a long time here. Some people used it, some people didn't. But now it's going to be a procedure, and it's going to be mandatory that we actually use it in a certain way. And the new administration here within the Academy are going to help with that implementation of the new system as well as myself. So as you can see there were a number of teams that you had in the system up on the board there, and those teams will actually either be in the system as we move forward, be resurrected, changed, modified, and all of the right athletes will be into those teams and moving on. So let's just recap quickly. The SportsLocker is a tool where we're actually talking about the online space versus the on-ground space. Yeah? It can actually be an administrative tool that works for both, but in a coaching sense, that's what we're talking about, 58% versus 7%. We're talking about not interrupting our athletes, but actually being where our athletes are. And we're talking about that we need to coach the coaches. So part of the process for me is that I need to coaches, and that's why we're filming today, so that we can put this on the SportsLocker and we can actually talk our way through a number of coaches that couldn't make it here tonight. So we need to coach the coaches, and we need to start thinking about face-to-face sessions versus online sessions. Now, I just came out of a camp with the Hockey Roos, so I was lucky enough to spend 5 days in Sydney as the Hockey Roos prepared to go to New Zealand to play a big tournament. And they say that every 4th session has to be an online session, a video session. So they'll do 3 training sessions, then the 4th session will be a video session. So for coaches within the academy, you think, oh, okay, well, I've got the kids for 2 or 3 training sessions a week, or in the academy maybe 1 a week, because they're all going to come from distance, or maybe there's a camp that only goes every couple of, for 2 or 3 days every 6 weeks. Whatever it might be, you also have those athletes on the system 58% of the time, because they're online 58% of the time. So if you push something to them while they're online, they'll go, oh, I might well read this from the academy. I'm already online, I might as well have a look. So you've got those athletes there. If you're not using that resource, then of course you're missing out on that valuable teaching. And then, as we say, the distance is not an issue, and then we come back in having a look at your team. So before I go into the demonstration or having a look at the setup and what's actually happening, are there any questions just purely on the structures of what it is that I'm developing and the overall concepts of the product itself?
More one, probably a question about your opinion on how to use it. You just said there that athletes are online 58% of the time, kids are online 58% of the time. And you're saying send something to them, don't interrupt them. Should you structure when you're sending stuff to them online, or should you sporadically send stuff? So as you just said, they're online, oh wow, I've just got a video. Or do you think that should be more structured, we will send you a video on this time, at this time, every week?
I haven't ever looked at it as one or the other.
Yeah, okay.
I've never had any research or worked out that one was better than the other. The only thing I would say is that if a session's called off because of weather, those athletes are expecting to see you on that day, and that's the greatest time to be able to send them something or talk to them about doing something. Because they're already in their mindset that they're going to training, or they've got the time blocked out and they were going. So set them some homework right there. So yeah, there's no way, either way, whatever. So one of the things the first thing I'll show you when I actually have a look at, is over the last 4 or 5 years, I've been creating a research, some coaching resources for myself. Now I'm into football, so I've been gathering some videos that you might see up on the screen here. I'm just going to see if I can make that a little bit clearer. But basically, and I don't expect you to read this, but there are 401 videos on things to coach kids on football. Now, over 4 years, I've been just developing a little register for myself. This is not inside of the SportsLocker, but of course, I can just pick up this video, put it into the SportsLocker, and ask the athletes to do something or to remind them about the structures for the weekend or what it might be. So when we talk about a video session, we're not just naturally talking about we videoed your game and now we're going to look at your game, because getting video of the games or the training sessions is not that easy. We've got a company that actually does that down in Sydney and on the Central Coast, but it's not that easy. But there's just one sport, there's 400 free videos that are sitting around the place that I can actually use within the time. So there are resources free of charge sitting out there in YouTube land that we can actually hook into and use. So the last thing I want to say before I come off the presentation is that we need to do better job at asking our athletes to do something, especially when we're asking them online. When we on the field and we say to them, okay, I want 3 over there, 3 on that cone, 3 on this cone, 4 behind us and away, they just run to the cones and away they go and they're ready to train. They understand it. If you're on the SportsLocker and you say, okay, watch this video and tell me what you think about the forward press, then straight away the kids go, okay, well, I'll watch the video, and then they think, okay, well, the coach has asked me, what do I think? Well, how am I going to tell the coach? Am I going to write him a message? Am I going to Snapchat him? Am I going to put it on Facebook? Because the coach didn't actually really give me any information about how I'm going to contact him. So we've got to get much smarter about that. So you post a video and you say, tell me about the forward press. I want you to write it as a comment on this video. Kids go, sweet, easy. Watch the video, they go to the comment section and write their stuff straight away. So we see it in SportsLocker all the time. It's the coaches lead, I need to know ASAP, whatever. The kids are going, athletes and some mums and dads are going, okay, well, how do you want me to tell you? You've got to instruct the athletes exactly what you want them to do. Which is exactly the same as the video part, saying, instead of saying, go find a video on the forward press and tell me what you think, they'll go, well, where do I get it? Where do I get that? Not good enough. We actually go and find it ourselves. And then we post it into the system and say, here's the video on the forward press, tell me what you think as a comment. You just can't rely on the kids or the athletes to go and thinking what it is that you're thinking. You have to instruct them as if you would out on the park. So the next part of this demo is just really having a bit of a look at some of the sites that we're working in, and as you may or may not have seen, the inside of the SportsLocker has a number of different teams down the left now. I'm logged in as the overall administrator, so of course I get to see all the teams down the left-hand side. Most athletes were only going to be on 2, if not 3 teams. They're going to be on their sporting team, they might be on an all-athletes team, and they might be on something else. If there's a carnival coming up, they might be on the carnival team, but that's it. So where it says your teams, they're probably only going to see 3 teams. Because the teams, you only see the teams that you have access to see. So in essence there, we could actually put in here, obviously, the link to the coaching resource that actually fires up like we had before. We could actually put dates into the calendar about when the games are on, the training's on. We could put documents into the actual locker about mainly PDF files about rules, regulations, structures, what to do, where to go, those sorts of documents, spreadsheets, those sorts of things. Now the best thing in the documents is obviously PDF files, because they just open up in the browser. If you put a Word or an Excel file, of course, that gets downloaded and start filling up people's computers with files, unwanted files. So PDF's obviously a really good thing to do. And if you just run over to the academy, this is the Central Coast Mariners Academy last year. There's folders that you can have. Even in the documents section, you can have a folder. In the video section, you can have folders. The other components here, as you can have, is live events. So YouTube live events. So if there's something going on, and it's being streamed somewhere, it might be like the Hockey Roos, the women's hockey was being streamed. So the hockey administrator might go, well, I want my team to actually watch this stream. And if you just said to your team, guys, I want you to go and watch the Hockey Roos stream, they're going to go, well, where is it? Where? You've got to find it, stick it in, and then you might want to ask them a question. Watch the stream, find the position that you're playing, and then tell me, as a comment, what that person did in your position that was good, bad, indifferent, whatever it might be. Obviously there's links in the actual SportsLocker, so they're links to other content that you might actually be wanting them to see. So you might find a really good article on the web already, and you don't want to cut and paste it and bring it, you just want to point to it. Guys, I want you to have a look at this link. I'm going to ask you a question in training on Thursday. After you've read the link, I want you to think about how we can do better this weekend, and we're going to go over it on the weekend, or the training. Then there's a thing called the embeds, and the embeds is basically web content that's not into YouTube. So for instance, you have Vimeo, you all sorts of bits and pieces that are not a YouTube video, and that's where you put all the other content. And of course, the bulletins. The bulletins are your group emails. I'm just running down here to have a quick look. Video homework task that we set the boys last year. Questions. And the bulletin comes to them as an email. And if they wanted to reply to that email, they can come down here and leave a comment to the actual bulletin. So that gets away from kids knowing your email. They don't need to know your email address. They don't need to know anything that's come on the site, and they put the comments into the bulletin. The good thing about the bulletin, it's like a mini blog, because you can add a document, a video, and a link to the actual bulletin. So the bulletin can be something that's about a topic, and you might spend with your team 3 or 4 weeks on a topic, and everybody's adding stuff, and it's all sort of coming together, and then you might go to a different topic. So it's like a ever-evolving, we call it a blog, but of course it's a bulk email scenario as well. I'll just click back into your site there. One of the other things that we might go, so I'll go back, sorry, flicking back, I'll go back to the Academy site. One of the other things that it's really good to do within the system is combine forms that you can create very quickly in Google. So Google has a free form thing, allows you to create forms very quickly, and then the results for those forms go up into an Excel spreadsheet online. So what would happen last year is after every game, the players had to fill out, and this all just happened on their mobile phones. So these forms just look beautifully nice and centered on their mobile phones. So they had to come in and they had to pick their name. There's my son there. They had to rate their performance, what they thought about their performance. So they had to do that after every game and after every training session. They had to rate. So every single training session, not every second training session, not when they thought of it, every single session. So it was up to the coach to basically say, guys, you're selected in this side. Welcome to the Academy for 2014. Here are your requirements. On the field, I expect you to do X, Y, Z. Off the field, I expect you to do X, Y, Z. And I don't expect any less. If you're not interested, then you might as well save your money and walk out now. If you're going to, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it properly. So there was an expectation set straight up by the coach and of course the administrative staff that this is the way that we're actually going to work, and if you want to be a professional footballer, then these are the things that you're going to have to do. And in that spreadsheet there's about, from last year, there is about 200-300 entries in that spreadsheet. Every kid, every session. Didn't miss one. And that was the expectation set by the academy. That's how they done it. So what happens is the results goes to the coach's team. They can look at the results. The kids don't see anybody else's results. They just get on the phone on their way home from training. It had to happen between when you left training and when you were home. The form had to be filled out. Most of the kids go and get in the car. They're checking their phone. They've got 48,000 messages while they're being trained. So, as you can see, the other part over here is the sending of the SMS. look at the SMS log for this particular year. There's, everything we actually had to do during the year, reminders, those sorts of things, we SMS them. Now, it's a big point because most children don't check their email address. That's why it's always good to have on the profile the child's email, the parent's email, because a lot of times the children don't get the emails. So text message, as we know, is a very efficient way to get messages to athletes. Plus, it's also the only way to get a message, an urgent message. Don't drive, it's off. You send that via email, they'll all turn up in the wet because the parents won't get those emails until they get to work on the day. So I have to talk to the administrative staff about costing for SMSs, but that won't be a problem. It will be free. We'll find a way to make it free, and so that the actual coaching staff can use it to help notify and to actually work with their groups. So other than going too much in depth, basically that is the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation, the presentation on the system. Obviously I'm going to spend a little bit more time with the administrative staff to talk about exactly how we move forward, how we get it all up to date and all that sort of stuff. But before I turn the camera off, is there any questions that from you guys, all 45 of you, about the actual the software that you think we could actually just solve? Any sort of questions?
A couple of quick ones. Smartphone friendly, obviously. Notifications. So when things are posted by the coach or by players, is it automatic notifications, as you just said, or do they sit there until the athletes log in?
Well, it's everything
structured, by the way.
Yeah, everything. So straight up, it's not an app. So the actual smartphone solution is a mobile website. So we don't get the in-app notifications like you would if you had an iPhone app. But the notifications come by email. So they'll just go out of the system to the normal email address straight away. So they don't have to wait till they come back on. They'll get an email, or their parents will go, Jackie, I just got an email from the actual SportsLocker that you have to go on and do your video homework. Jackie will jump on, away she go. Or she might get that email herself. Or you might go, I'll post the homework in the video section, and then you might jump on the SMS and go, guys, no training tonight. Just thinking forward, thinking before you act. I'm just about to send a message to the team about there's no training. Why don't I quickly prepare? Or I might send one message, say, guys, it's off, relax, expect some homework to come in the next 5 or 6 minutes. Please jump on the SportsLocker and have a look. So you're notified not to drive, so you've been really quickly to jump on there so that they didn't come to the wet. But you've also told them that there'll be some homework posted, and they'll expect to basically be doing that. So notification comes by email or SMS. However,
and it was a good segue into my second question. Given that you've been around a while and have probably seen the best, or what's good, what hasn't worked, would you be able to create, this is probably down the line, and an admin question, almost a template of the program for our coaches who have never used it again? For instance, could they have a suite of videos, a suite of messages ready to go, like a wet weather message, a video, that sort of thing, so our coaches could simply lift them, send them, rather than create?
Yeah, that's not an issue. I don't actually have like a library of all those, but we could certainly together in 5 minutes create those sort of things.
Well, I'm just thinking, why create when there's 12 regions and they've probably already worked out what works and what doesn't work. Let's take the best.
No, that is a good scenario, and we can do that. I'm just having a look at one of our other clubs. That's Spirit, Northern Tigers. I've done up a series of video tutorials for all of the functionality, and I have it inside the Northern Tigers, but I normally post it to each new SportsLocker client because it is generic to the product, even though it's got their branding on it. But once you're inside, so there is a playlist of everything that you need to do as a video, the video tutorials here, how to create an event, how to create a document. So obviously there's that stuff that the coaches can go through, and then there's the other stuff where we can set some templates and some predefined, determined stuff. But obviously there's also a procedural document that we'll have to put together about what is the procedure. Because you don't want to go, oh, it's off, and then you text your team, you text your team, and you text your team, and when the team's got 58 text messages going, it's off. We need to basically have a procedure where the administration texts the actual coach. It's up to the coach to text the team because the coach might be organising an alternative training session or an online homework. So it's no good the administration letting the team know, and then the coach going, well, I'll let the team know as well because I want them to do something as well. So there's a procedure that over this many years and all these clients, we understand what works and what doesn't work. So what I'll do is we'll pull up there, and then you guys can head home, or if you get any more questions while the camera's off, and then we'll continue.